Sucker, motherfucker!
He's asking you if you swear.
No, but I know all the words.
Bullshit! Bullshit! Mind it!
Hey, get that out of your mouth.
Yeah. Guess the act is over. So before I start, I want to give a shout out to Sean, who sent in the paid request. Thank you so much for your kindness. Whether you like the film or not, I hope the review is okay for you. And if people like this film, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no wrong answer to that question. It's all subjective. And by the way, for people interested in requesting any type of videos, topic, tier list, ranking, review, re-review, random thought streams, commentaries, a video game playthrough for an hour, a full playthrough, a tier list, a topic, whatever the case, feel free. Now, I could go all over the top and stuff of that, but here's the thing. Oppenheimer was a film, when I got the request, while the running time was daunting, I went, you know what? I'm intrigued, because Christopher Nolan has made films I enjoy, which I'll get to in a minute. Okay, Oppenheimer, who created the atomic bomb, among other people, involved with the Manhattan Project, among others. Maybe you could make that interesting, whether as somewhat of a thriller, race against time, and really get into the nuts and bolts, and with the way the trailers make it seem like. There are some good visual aspects in the film, as there are in other Nolan films. And I actually thought maybe I could go, you know what? It's a film that I would not watch a lot, but I don't mind it. This was one of the most boring fucking films I've seen in a while. And before I go on, there's going to be a lot of people saying, well, you just like action films. Yes, action films are my favorite genre. They are. But I could tell you that not only do I like films like The Shawshank Redemption, but I love 2001: A Space Odyssey, Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Since there's a lot of political stuff in this movie, All the President's Men with Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman. I liked that film. Dr. Strangelove. But All the President's Men, even Courtroom stuff, whether it be the movie 12 Angry Men, the remake and the original 12 Angry Men, or the movie A Few Good Men, or even comedies like Find Me Guilty, or My Cousin Vinny. So it's not that I don't like courtroom dramas, it's not that I don't like lawn movies. The Shining, The Shawshank Redemption, Heat, among others, are pretty lawn. It's just that this film, I thought, nothing about it was gripping. Nothing about it was exciting. There was so much babble talk that it got snooze-inducing, and it should be called Snoozenheimer. That's the fucking name that should be called, Snoozenheimer. You want to go to sleeping pill? Go watch this fucking movie, Snoozenheimer. But if I put that in the title, people wonder what the hell I'm smoking. I don't know. I'll think about it. And Christopher Nolan, I liked Memento. I liked Insomnia. Prestige I haven't seen. I liked Dunkirk for what it was. Inception is my favorite. I really enjoy Inception. Batman Begins I'm not a fan of. The Dark Knight, I appreciate Heath Ledger's performance. Dark Knight Rises is his worst one. Tenet, I'll be honest, I'd rather rewatch Tenet. I wasn't big on, but you know what? I'd rather, If you're asking me which I would rather rewatch, I'd rather give another shot to Tenet than this movie. I'm not joking. I'd rather give a second chance to Tenet than I would want to give a second chance to this fucking movie. Oh, and Interstellar, I like the first half, I hate the third act. This film I wanted to like more than I did. So he's a good director, some great visual flourishes, but he's not, I don't think he's a fucking perfect A++, he's never made a bad movie. But again, that's subjective. Do I think this deserved Best Picture Oscar? I don't know. I don't remember all the films that were nominated or all the films that came out. But fuck the Oscars. Who gives a shit about the Oscars? There's so many films. I mean, hell, Heat was never nominated for anything. There's plenty of films never nominated for anything. But I'm supposed to care about the Oscars. They nominated Barbie the same year. They nominated Black Panther one year. Screw the Oscars. I don't care. You know what I think was a great movie? Searching with John Cho. Great movie. Wonderful acting performance. That didn't get jack shit. There's plenty of films I could name of that caliber. But it's all, again, that's their opinion. And when I looked at the cast, I went, wow, this is a really good cast. Cillian Murphy, who of course was Scarecrow in Batman Begins, but I first saw him in 28 Days Later. He was in Sunshine. He was even in Wes Craven's Red Eye. I liked him as an actor. He plays J. Robert Oppenheimer. You have Robert Downey Jr., which I know Cillian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr. won the Oscars for their performances. I have no issues with their acting performances. Robert Downey Jr. I've liked in plenty of films. He plays the Rear Admiral, who was a former U.S. Atomic Energy Commission guy who knew Oppenheimer back in the day. You have Emily Blunt, who I like in films a la Edge of Tomorrow. She plays Oppenheimer's wife. You got Matt Damon, who I liked. Really liked him in films like The Martian. That's a film I enjoy. He plays a colonel who becomes the head of the Manhattan Project. And just all the people from Josh Hartnett, let's see, Matthew Modine, Tony Goldwyn, even Josh Peck from Drake and Josh was in this. Scott Grimes from Critters 1 and 2 was in this. He was in the black and white scenes, kind of a associate of Robert Downey Jr.'s character. There's a lot of familiar people in this. I'm like, oh, there's that guy and that guy. That was cool to see. Kenneth Branagh was in the film. But my God, this film was so fucking boring. So goddamn boring. Because when you look at the trailers, when you look at the marketing, you know what you don't see? That most of this film is a goddamn political courtroom drama. Where there's literally two courtrooms happening at the same fucking time in different time periods. And that's another thing. The timeline is all over the place. We're at this black and white, which is throughout the entire film, this portion of Robert Downey Jr., he's going to go into a committee where he's pretty much going to be on trial. Then that's interspersed with an somewhat older Oppenheimer in this little meeting board. He's kind of on trial because he's been talking a little bit of shit about the use of atomic weapons and, oh, well, you're loyal, but we gotta take away your security clearance away. Pretty much belittle him so that people out there will not take him as seriously and have doubts on him. And then it'll go, like, to how he first started in his 20s, going up the ranks in school and physics and being in England, then going to Berkeley in California. But then it'll be at the Robert Downey Jr. over here in black and white. Then it'll be back to the courtroom, the little trial that's further down the road from where we're at. Then we're back to here. Then we're back to there. Then we're back to there. Then we're over there. Then we're over there. At times it got almost confusing as to where the hell I was. Now, yes, I wasn't totally confused. But it was just too much busy work. It was like trying to do too much. And I did not find the courtroom stuff that gripping. I did not find it that interesting. I did not find it that fascinating. At all. Now, are there positives? Yes, there's some interesting visual parts in the movie. There's a bit where after the bombs, he's being praised, pictures are being taken of him, and Oppenheimer's looking around, and the flashes are kind of blinding him, but then he imagines like stepping on a charred corpse, and he's looking at the crowd, and then they flash away in a blinding white light, then they flash back, because he's dealing with what happened with Nagasaki and Hiroshima. There's little moments like that. But not as often as you would think, other than maybe he's looking somewhere and then you'll see like a little surface of the sun or a little bit of waves of an atom. And especially early on, they kind of do those little bits and pieces of that. And it's about either his infidelity, where he's married to Emily Blunt, but then he's going out with this girl, but then this girl is, there's stuff going on there, and then she ends up offing herself. And him, near the beginning, this guy's giving him crap, so he's ready to poison his apple, but then he decides to change his mind. Which is even a weird way to start because, okay, we see the guy's a little bit of a dick, but that's, between that and poisoning the damn apple, that's a big fucking leap. I think we should see this guy as some kind of monster to have our lead character, of course, I say it, but it's a real guy, poison a guy's apple as if he's Snow fucking White, or give it to her as if the professor is Snow fucking White. Because he takes a needle and injects it in. I'm like, okay, we saw him like being a little bit of a dick, but enough to kill him? I mean, it's a bit much to start that early stages of his physics career in Cambridge and England. And that's the thing, it'll go from like his beginnings, even more of the restructure of the story, of the timeline. Like I say, it goes from like Robert Downey Jr. much further in, and Dwight Eisenhower's president, but then it'll go, like I said, to Oppenheimer, Cillian Murphy, a little bit on trial. But then it goes to a point where he first met Robert Downey Jr. and ready to teach at Berkeley, and then this bit with Albert Einstein, and then it's like taking a timeline, cutting it up like kid with paper dolls and just switch them around. And I don't think it needed to do that. I really do not. And I think that's one of the reasons why I took away from the possibility of it being gripping. Because it's your mind trying to, okay, we're at this timeline. Okay, so this moment is before this, but it's after this, but it's after that, but it's before that. So your mind has to kind of reconfigure, and then you get into the scene. Then you have to reconfigure here. Then you have to reconfigure at this bit. Whether that takes a second, 5 seconds, or 10 seconds. Hell, Memento seemed to flow a bit better than this. And that's not even a joke. So he's at Berkeley, and Josh Hartnett is one of the teachers there. Around that time, World War II, and the Germans, people over there have split the atom. And pretty quickly, Oppenheimer and Josh Hartnett realized that this would be weaponized. Now it goes into how people don't really want to believe in Oppenheimer, or not believe, but they're unsure about him because how, like, his wife used to be a communist and all this other stuff, so they're not sure about his political beliefs. And okay, some believe, yes, he's loyal to the country, but because of other factors or because of people he knows. And then you have the bits of romance, again, with Emily Blunt or with the girl stooping on the side. I just did not give a fuck about any of this. Oppenheimer, you come to realize, was a pretty boring guy. He was a boring guy who just happened to make the atomic bomb. He was a boring guy with a boring fucking life, uninteresting relationships, boring friends, boring personality. Because it's not Cillian Murphy's acting that's the problem. It's just the character is a fucking boring as shit character to follow. He's a boring as shit character to follow. That stretched out to 3 hours. And it takes what feels like an hour to get to the damn building of the bomb. Which, if there's any interest, it'd be a little bit of that, but even then it's just kind of talking. Matt Damon being pissed at his scientist, "What are you doing in Chicago? You're not supposed to do that. I can't do this, I will quit." And then Josh Hartnett is brought in, and they're talking some more, and they're talking some more, and they're talking some more. And even that wasn't gripping. Like, it didn't make that interesting. It didn't make that intriguing. It didn't make that involved for the viewer to follow along as to what the fuck was going on. Even when they test the atomic bomb, it seems like, other than the idea of when it erupts, there's silence. I like that idea. But the bomb, I don't even think the bomb looked that good. Like, the explosion is done like, you just tell it's practical fire. Because I know Nolan is not big on digital, which I appreciate that. On the flip side, the test didn't seem that amazing of a test. I don't know what it is. Like, something about the way the explosion is. It just seemed like, for a second, I kind of went. Did they screw up? Like, is this not a dud because there's an explosion, but was it as big as they wanted it to be? It felt small. Again, the fact it's silent and then the wind and okay, but it didn't feel as glorious as it could have been or should have been. Being the atomic bomb, I don't know. Just something about that. Maybe that's just me. If anyone feels the same way, please feel free to write it. And maybe you could word it better than I could, but just something about it wasn't impressive. I think Josh Peck was the guy who kind of hit the button for the test. Just like, is that fucking Josh? Like, for Drake and Josh? It is. Oh, another person. What was this? James Remar. He's in the film because they're discussing where to drop the bomb, and he's like, "Oh, don't drop it on this because it's a cultural aspect of Japan. Plus, me and my wife like to go there for vacation or whatever the hell, or honeymoon." You would think they would have a scene where they show the bombs dropping in Japan, and like the up close devastation in Japan, and whether Oppenheimer like seeing this on the news or seeing like the horrible nature of war, the atomic bomb, and what it did, and to really show audience the horror of that. No, I thought they kind of played it a bit too safe on that. I would say kind of pussied out on that. That would really drive in the horror of what this guy's created. He has doubts. At one point, tossed to Harry S. Truman, Gary Oldman, and pretty much he just plays him as a dick. Like Truman's a dick. I got blood on my hands. You think it's about you? Gives like a handkerchief. I kept thinking of that fucking line in Rush Hour. Please, a fool, you dead. You know, whatever the hell Chris Tucker said to the bad guy. You bleeding. Yeah, because the guy did the Chris Tucker first. You're bleeding. And then, yeah, anyway. And then as he's leaving, Truman's like, don't let that crybaby in here again. I'm like, wow, Truman, I guess he was a dick. I guess he was a complete dickhead. Oh, Rami Malek, who was in Bohemian Rhapsody as Freddie Mercury, he's in this. And the scenes, Robert Downey Jr. in black and white, he comes in and pretty much tells the court, the Senate hearing, whatever, hey, Robert Downey Jr. was a dick, and he wanted to fuck over Oppenheimer because it was a personally vindictive, because Oppenheimer made fun of him a couple times. When he mentioned about the radiation isotopes and the hydrogen bombs, and Oppenheimer was against him, and then he thought that Oppenheimer made Albert Einstein pissed at him, which wasn't the case. They didn't talk about him at all. I'm like, really? That's what it was about? With this Strauss guy that Robert Downey Jr. played? He was just a pussy crybaby? I didn't feel a chemistry between Cillian Murphy and Emily Blunt. I did not feel a chemistry between those two characters. They might as well have been strangers to each other. Sometimes the family stuff seems to be forgotten. Like there's this thing with a baby, and the baby was put because he's like, oh, we're so bad parents, or so bad whatever, and could you please take care of this baby? And then that wasn't really referenced much later on. And maybe I fell asleep. I didn't fall asleep, but maybe like, what the fuck happened with that baby? Did we ever go back to that baby? Maybe we did, and I just forgot. I was so fucking bored in this movie. Rather play with my pecker. Do it now, not on camera. Unless OnlyFans. I'll start an OnlyFans. Play with my pecker. For 3 hours. I have more fun doing that than watch this fucking movie again. You just like action films. I said what I said earlier. I stand by it. There's Nolan films I like. There's films of other nature I like. Just not this one. The timeline is all over the place. None of it was gripping. I was never at the edge of my seat. I was never entranced. I was never pulled into what was going on. In a weird way, it felt cold. Emotionally cold. For a lot of it. Which is weird, because Inception, I felt the opposite. With the whole thing with Leonardo DiCaprio and this woman he loved, and how things went far off with her, and she got kind of trapped in her own mind. This person who was the mother to his kids, and I actually felt that emotion. I didn't feel any of that in this. Then pretty much the court, it's like each of these bits kind of end. Like the courtroom with Oppenheimer and what was the guy? Jason Clarke? The guy who was John Connor in Terminator Genesis. John Connor then became a villain in Genesis. That guy, I think his name is Jason Clarke. he kind of gives him the third degree, which in a kind of an interesting visual take where, like, Oppenheimer is kind of losing it with his anxiety as Jason Clarke keeps hounding him down. And he's kind of visualizing a blast of white, like there's a atomic bomb going off. But the sound design annoyed the piss out of me in that scene, because I'm trying to listen to what the hell the guy's saying, but then I have this pounding thing that I had to turn down my headphones down, and that just annoyed the piss out of me. So the sound was more annoying than anything, so I was drawn out of the scene when I should have been drawn forward in the scene. I pretty much, like Matthew Modine, he comes in to stick up for Oppenheimer, while Jason Clarke and Tony Golan and others are giving him the third degree. Tony Golan, he was in Ghost and The Last House on the Left remake. And pretty much they go, we think you're loyal to the country, but we don't want to take away your security clearance. So pretty much the word will get out and the country will be divided on you. Some will think you're a loser, a pussy, and others will think, yeah, good job, you did atomic bomb, ended World War II. It doesn't really show what he did after that. It just kind of shows he's with Emily Blunt, and then I guess later on he kind of shaked people's hands and got an award. I guess after the hearings of the Robert Downey Jr. stuff, where he pretty much gets, he was supposed to be voted into something and he's not. I guess one of the dissenting votes was John F. Kennedy. I do think there's a way to tell the story in a gripping fashion that really gets you white knuckle in terms of, you know, you don't want them to succeed, and suspense of, like, okay, they're doing these things with physics and a bomb. You would think there'd be moments of, oh, well, what if this does something, and what if this goes wrong, and what if, will this work? And some way to just bring up the tension in those scenes. It doesn't do that. And this movie, this movie is just so fucking boring. The dialogue was not fascinating. And there's really nothing of the dialogue that really got us to know the actual characters as personalities. Not a whole lot. Maybe a teeny bit from people like Matt Damon, because he says, well, I could get you this or this. Until you feel my boot on your... until you feel my boot on your balls. Meaning, yeah, I won't keep you in the balls. Like, maybe a little bit of Matt Damon, his character. But not a whole lot of the others. And again, it's a pretty good cast, and I don't think people did a bad job. And the visuals, when they're there, I don't have complaints of them, other than I think the atomic bomb itself, the test, just should have been this amazing, magnificent, scoped moment. I didn't feel it with the way it looked. I think they dropped the ball on that. Again, I never thought this was going to be more of a political courtroom drama. That's really like two courts happen at the same time, and so much about pretty much, yeah, we had use for you, but now you're having doubts, so we don't need you anymore, so we need to discredit you. Which they do. But again, there wasn't really any sense of danger. There wasn't really a sense of suspense. It wasn't like, oh, if you keep it up, maybe you'll have an accident. You know, there wasn't any of that stuff. course, at the end you go, well, that didn't happen in real life. That's why you can't put it in this. Well, okay, but then I don't think his story. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is no way to tell the story in an interesting fashion, for me at least. Maybe there isn't a case. Maybe there's not a case. I don't know. I guess maybe it depends how much artistic license you have on it. But I did not like this film at all. Like I said, I'd rather give a second chance to Tenet. I still think Dark Knight Rises is the worst one I've seen. This is the second worst I've seen. I'd rather watch Batman Begins. Or somebody says, it's a good movie. Well, yeah, I wasn't big on it. I'd rather watch Dunkirk. I'd rather watch Interstellar. As much as I don't like the third act. Following, I barely remember. Like I said, Memento I liked. Insomnia I liked. Inception I definitely liked. Dark Knight I would put above this easily. I didn't Tenet I probably should get more into than this. Snoozenheimer. If I remember, I'm going to put that in. Yeah, but if people try to find it, they type it, they won't find the title. So, I don't know. I'll probably put Oppenheimer, because people will be, what the hell is that? Maybe I'll put like Oppenheimer sucks. Just be simple with it. Fuck it. Well, at least I saw it and I never have to see it again. But thank you, Sean, for the request. I appreciate that. But I did not think I would dislike this much. Believe it or not, I went in a little bit hopeful because I heard so much praise. And I'm like, okay, maybe it could be interesting. And again, 2001: A Space Odyssey. Yeah, Doctor Strangelove, which is a more interesting movie about a bomb, which I know I have to review that sometime this month. That was a request, and much more interesting movie than this. And gets the same point across. That's all I got. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.